Welcome to TFI Global, the antidote to mass delusion. In the recent developments concerning the war between Ukraine and Russia, there has been a significant shift in Ukraine's approach towards seeking peace. Previously, during the conflict, foreign aid played a crucial role in supporting Ukraine. This external support, along with military assistance from NATO, bolstered Ukraine's resistance against Russia. During this phase, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky had rejected Russia's offers for peace negotiations on 3 different occasions. The general perception among NATO countries at that time was that accepting a peace deal could potentially be interpreted as a victory for Russia and consequently a setback for Ukraine. However, the situation has evolved notably. With the cessation of foreign aid, Ukraine is now actively pursuing a path to peace. The change in stance is evident in the recent initiative to bring an end to the conflict, which has been ongoing for nearly 2 years. A key event marking this phase was a meeting of national security advisors from various countries, which took place in Davos on a Sunday. This meeting signifies Ukraine's commitment to advancing its peace proposal and marks a pivotal moment in the efforts to resolve the conflict with Russia. The World Economic Forum in Davos, a significant event in the global economic calendar, is underway, but Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was notably absent from the opening session held on Sunday. It's being alleged that President Zelensky was not permitted to speak during this session, a decision entirely made to avoid provoking Russia. This year's WEF features 81 participants representing various countries and international organizations, emphasizing the event's global scope and importance. In President Zelensky's absence, his Chief of Staff Andriy Yermak took on the role of representing Ukraine. The talks also saw the participation of prominent figures from the United States, including Penny Pritzker, who is the U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine's economic recovery. Alongside her was James O'Brien, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs. Their attendance underscores the ongoing international engagement and interest in Ukraine's situation, especially in the context of its economic recovery and geopolitical position. Zelensky is expected to address the forum later in the week, an event that will likely draw significant attention and perhaps provide insights into Ukraine's current stance and future strategies in the international arena. Amid increasing worries about the United States' continued backing of Ukraine in a year of elections, high-profile American officials are set to speak at the World Economic Forum, which officially commences on Monday morning. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Secretary of State Antony Blinken are among the expected speakers. The event, hosted in Switzerland, includes discussions on the Ukraine peace talks. These talks are aimed at establishing foundational principles for a lasting and equitable peace in Ukraine. The focus is at the level of national security advisors. Last week, Switzerland issued a statement highlighting that these principles are intended to lay the groundwork for the subsequent phases of the peace process. The involvement of the Global South in discussions regarding Ukraine's peace formula has become a focal point at the Davos meeting. A significant number of non-aligned countries from regions such as Africa, Latin America, the Middle East, and Asia, which have largely remained neutral over the Ukraine conflict, are being represented at this Swiss mountain resort. Notably, Nigeria's National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu was present at the National Security Advisors meeting. Andriy Yermak, representing Ukraine, reported that the meeting included participants from 18 Asian countries, 12 African countries, and 6 South American countries. Yermak, on his Telegram account, emphasized the growing involvement of countries from the Global South in Ukraine's efforts. Ukraine, bolstered by strong support from its allies, had maintained its stance of not conceding any territory occupied by Russia. However, it is uncertain whether the Global South shares this perspective as part of the peace formula. It is important to note that most countries in the Global South lean somewhat towards pro-Russia sentiments and might favor Russia's stance. Additionally, there's an observation that NATO countries, which previously overlooked the Global South when the war was progressing as expected, are now seeking a consensus to potentially sway Russia's position in the conflict. The recent discussions at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland regarding a Ukrainian proposed peace plan have been met with skepticism by Russia. Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, on Monday dismissed these talks as futile, stressing that any discussions about peace in Ukraine without Moscow's involvement are bound to be unproductive. The Davos meeting, held in the scenic Swiss mountains, saw the participation of 83 delegations who convened to deliberate on the peace plan proposed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This plan, consisting of 10 points, was designed to bring an end to the conflict initiated by Russia's special operations in Ukraine in February 2022. Key elements of Zelensky's proposal include the withdrawal of Russian troops, the re-establishment of Ukraine's state borders, and holding Russia accountable for war crimes committed during the conflict. These are funnier than the jokes that Zelensky might have prepared during his stint as a comedian. This proposal was a central topic at a summit of national security advisors at the annual WEF meeting on Sunday. It is notable that this was not the first time of Zelensky's plan, as it had been brought up in 3 prior gatherings. Andriy Yermak, the chief of staff for the Ukrainian president, expressed optimism about the growing international interest in this discussion, highlighting the expanding participation in the series of conferences. Yermak remarked on the increasing involvement of countries from the global south, viewing it as a recognition that the conflict, while European, poses a challenge to the entire world. Well, to quote S. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, he once famously remarked, "Europe needs to come out of the mentality that the world's problems are not Europe's problems, but Europe's problems are world's problems." Even Yermak needs to understand this. Despite the international dialogue, Ukraine remains firm in its stance of not engaging directly with Russia regarding this peace plan. President Zelensky has even decreed that any talks with Russia are illegal. This position has led Russia, which currently controls a significant portion of Ukrainian territory, to view the plan as stupid and unrealistic. Peskov's comments underscore Russia's dismissal of the discussions at Davos. He criticized the talks as a mere rhetoric without any substantial aim, emphasizing that without Russia's participation, these discussions lack the potential to yield any meaningful results. The Western world and their puppet Ukraine need to understand necessity of involving Russia directly in any peace negotiations. Meetings excluding Moscow are unlikely to be fruitful. The West needs to acknowledge the importance of Russia's participation in peace talks. Any peace plan proposed by the West or Ukraine is likely to include conditions unacceptable to Russia. Examples of such contentious clauses might include the insistence on Volodymyr Zelensky remaining as Ukraine's president and the demand for Russia to relinquish control of the Donbas region. These demands are unrealistic and indicative of a misunderstanding of Russia's position and interests in the conflict. The genesis of the war is attributed to actions by Western nations, particularly the expansion of NATO, which was a provocation at Russia's doorstep. Biden administration's foreign policy, especially following the debacle in Afghanistan, played a role in escalating tensions leading to the war. Now that Russia has emerged victorious in the conflict and that the Western narrative has faltered, expectations for Russia to acquiesce to Western-led peace plans are unreasonable. The stance is further justified by historical precedents, such as the treatment of Germany after World Wars I and II and the continued American influence in Japan, suggesting a pattern of Western powers not easily relinquishing control or influence after conflicts. Expecting Russia to agree to terms set by the West, especially after withstanding sanctions and maintaining its position in the war, is extremely stupid and wholly unrealistic.